As one of the defeated powers of the First World War, Hungary found itself in a situation similar to that of Germany, bound by strict military limitations imposed by the post-war treaties. These restrictions severely curtailed the size of its armed forces and effectively prohibited the development and acquisition of modern military equipment. By the late 1930s, however, the attention of the Allied powers had shifted elsewhere, and Hungary began to quietly expand and modernize its military. Surrounded by rearming neighbors, the country faced growing pressure to procure and develop new military hardware, particularly for its air force. For the acquisition of fighter aircraft, Hungary turned to German Heinkel company and its HE-112 fighter. Although the HE-112 was a relatively advanced design for its time, it was not adopted by the German Luftwaffe and was therefore produced only in limited numbers. Despite Hungary's effort to purchase some of these aircraft, its requests were denied. Instead, Hungary obtained a production license, which laid the foundation for its own attempt to build a modern fighter. Using the HE-112 as a foundation and incorporating several domestic modifications, Hungarian engineers developed the WM-23. Only a single prototype was completed. While the aircraft showed some promise, the project suffered from a prolonged development period, the eventual loss of the prototype, and the arrival of more capable alternatives such as the Messerschmitt Bf-109. These factors ultimately brought the program to an end. In the late 1930s, anticipating future conflicts over disputed territories with its neighbors, Hungary began a renewed effort to rearm and expand its armed forces, including the Air Force. Achieving this required the acquisition of new and capable aircraft, yet, while Hungary possessed some domestic industrial capacity, producing modern fighters locally would demand both time and technical experience, both of which were in short supply. The more practical solution was to seek out a proven foreign design that could hopefully be acquired at a reasonable price. Hungary was well positioned diplomatically for such an approach, maintaining relatively good relations with both Italy and Germany, two countries with advanced aviation industries and combat-tested aircraft. In June 1938, a Hungarian delegation traveled to Germany to visit the Heinkel company, hoping to identify a suitable design to meet the requirements of the Hungarian Air Force. While Heinkel was primarily involved in bomber production and development, the company also sought to secure contracts for fighter aircraft. At that time, it attempted to win the German competition for a new fighter with its HE-112, a fairly modern, low-wing monoplane design. Although the HE-112 ultimately lost to the Bf-109, the German Ministry of Aviation, in order to compensate Heinkel for its considerable investment of time and resources, allowed the company to export the aircraft to foreign buyers. Several countries, including Austria, Japan, Romania, and Finland, expressed interest, but only a few managed to obtain the aircraft, and even then, only in small numbers. Hungary had already become familiar with the HE-112 through the presence of its military observers during the Spanish Civil War, where the aircraft was seen in operational use for the first time. This initial exposure left a positive impression, and Hungarian pilots were later given the opportunity to conduct test flights with the type themselves. Their evaluation were generally favorable, and the aircraft was considered a suitable candidate for adoption. Following further negotiations, Hungary placed an order for 36 aircraft machines. However, the situation soon became complicated. Heinkel never placed the HE-112 into full-scale production, as the design was ultimately rejected by the Luftwaffe. Only a small number of aircraft were built, primarily for export to Spain and Japan, and Hungary's order was therefore given low priority. To further complicate matters, the German Ministry of Aviation was deliberately delaying weapon shipments to Hungary. This was a calculated move to exert political and economic pressure on both Hungary and Romania, who at the time were on the brink of conflict, in an attempt to ease regional tensions. Despite these setbacks, the Hungarians remained persistent. At the beginning of 1939, they once again requested 36 aircrafts, only to be denied a second time. Still, a single HE-112 was eventually sent to Hungary for testing near Budapest. On 5th February 1939, it was lost in a crash during a mock dogfight against a CR-32 biplane fighter. The following month, a second HE-112 was supplied. This aircraft underwent extensive testing, and once again, Hungarian pilots expressed largely positive views regarding its handling and characteristics and overall design. In 1939, Romania acquired a batch of 24 HE-112 fighters, raising concern in Hungary over its neighbor's expanding military capabilities. Realizing that Germany was unlikely to deliver the previously promised aircraft, Hungarian authorities instead requested a production license. This request was approved, and Heinkel also supplied 2 additional HE-112s to support the program. When the license documents arrived in Hungary in May 1939, an initial production order for 12 aircraft was placed with the Weissmann-Manfred aircraft manufacturer. One of the major design changes involved replacing the German armament with Hungarian-made weapons to simplify logistics. While preparations for production were underway, the 3 available HE-112s were pressed into service. They were used primarily for training until 1944, when they were either destroyed in Allied bombing raids or abandoned due to a lack of spare parts. Despite Hungary's best effort to put the HE-112 into production, this plan was ultimately derailed by the war between Poland and Germany. While the Hungarians hoped to produce the aircraft domestically, they still depended on Germany for certain key components, most importantly, the engine. The German Ministry of Aviation strictly forbade the export of such vital components to other countries, as German stockpiles were already running low. As a result, all work on the Hungarian HE-112 had to be abandoned. However, the Hungarians were left with the license documentation for the HE-112. This meant that while they could not manufacture the aircraft in its entirety, they were still capable of producing many of its components. Hungarian Air Force officials soon began exploring the idea of developing a new fighter based on the HE-112's technical specifications and available documentation. This approach promised to greatly accelerate the development process compared to starting from scratch. The responsibility for designing and building the new aircraft was given to Weissmann-Manfred, under the supervision of chief designer Bela Zamu. To speed up progress, the HE-112's wing design was copied, but due to the limited capabilities of the Hungarian aircraft industry, the wings were constructed from wood instead of metal. Other modifications included an oval section fuselage, revised armament, a new engine, and a redesigned cockpit. The prototype was completed quickly. By the end of 1939, in this early configuration, the aircraft was painted in a light gray finish, earning it the nickname Ezüst Nyíl or Silver Aero. After being handed over to the Hungarian Air Force for official testing, it was repainted in the standard national camouflage scheme and given the designation V501. The maiden flight took place near Budapest on 23 February 1940 and was considered a success. During the trials, the aircraft reached a maximum speed of 530 km per hour at an altitude of 5,000 meters, an impressive figure for a domestically developed fighter. Several issues were identified during the testing, the most serious being the strong vibration caused by the exhaust system. Despite this, the project showed promise and the development pressed on. The WM-23 was a mixed-construction single-engine fighter aircraft heavily influenced by the HE-112. Due to its obscure nature, little information is available regarding its detailed construction. In order to speed up development, Hungarian engineers abandoned the more complex monocoque fuselage in favor of a simpler oval section fuselage built from welded steel tubes, which was then covered with plywood. The aircraft featured a conventional landing gear arrangement, with 2 large main wheels retracting into the wings and a semi-retractable tailwheel. The cockpit was fitted with a rear sliding canopy. Power was provided by a 1030 horsepower WMK-14P engine, a 14-cylinder radial developed under license from the French Homegrown 14K. This engine was equipped with a single-stage, single-speed supercharger. Although the prototype was never armed, plans for its offensive loadout were drawn up. The proposed armament included 2 8mm machine guns mounted in the wings, supported by 2 12.7mm heavy machine guns placed above the engine compartment. Additionally, the WM-23 was intended to carry a light bomb load of 2 20-kilogram bombs. The Hungarian Air Force had high hopes of putting the WM-23 into production. However, despite the quick development of the prototype, the project dragged on, and the progress was further hindered when the first prototype was lost in an accident in early 1942. During a high-speed test flight, one of the ailerons broke off, causing the pilot to lose control. he was forced to bail out while the aircraft crashed and was completely destroyed. With the loss of the prototype, the entire project was abandoned. Another major factor behind the cancellation was the start of licensed production of the German Messerschmitt Bf-109G. With German technical support available, it proved far faster, cheaper, and more practical to manufacture this proven frontline fighter than to continue investing in the development of the WM-23. As a result, the WM-23 remained a technological dead end, an ambitious but ultimately short-lived attempt to create an independent Hungarian fighter design. This concludes our look at the HE-112 in Hungarian service and Hungary's attempt to develop a refined domestically produced variant. Do you think Germany should have supplied Hungary with more HE-112s? And if sufficient resources and industrial capacity had been available, could the WM-23 have become a viable frontline fighter? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in exploring more unusual and lesser-known aircraft design, be sure to check out the rest of our videos on the channel. If you enjoy what we do, consider subscribing so you don't miss future uploads. Also, don't forget to take a look at our ever-growing collection of articles on the website, plain-encyclopedia.com. Thank you and see you next time.